went to the heavenly planets, okay, and he learned all the weapons, including veena playing, including mridanga playing, including dance, including how to make braid of nice young, you know, little girls. He learned how to make rangoli. He could twang the Gandiva bow with great power, and he could play graciously, seamlessly the strings of the veena. Combining the female, feminine energy and masculine energy. Right, being in the heavenly planets where Indra had not allowed anybody to sit on his throne, he gave half a seat to Arjuna to sit. That Arjuna had a very clear understanding. I am here to learn and go back. So when Indra threw a party for Arjuna to enjoy in the heavenly planet, best of the apsaras are dancing. You can imagine where people invite some actresses, movie stars, and singers for their Sangeet and spend crores of rupees. And as if the devatas have come to their place and they feel so fortunate about themselves, you know. So here Arjuna had apsaras, and it is explained in the Mahabharata, clarity of vision. He respected their dance. He was not disrespectful to him, but those who had the right understanding of body language, they could see that he was missing something. What was he missing? The party he respected, but his heart was packed with the Pandavas. I've come here for learn something and I have to learn and go back. So he never showed confusion. He never showed lack of profession. He never showed lack of devotion. He never exhibited lack of proficiency. So what was Arjuna's disease? Arjuna's disease was his good quality. His good quality became Arjuna's disqualification. What is that good quality? Arjuna became compassionate. He became compassionate to the very people who were directly, indirectly responsible for insulting the Pandavas, trying to disrobe Draupadi. Dronacharya never came to meet the Pandavas. Bhishma never came to meet the Pandavas in the forest. Vidura could come, they could also had come, but they did not come. And when Arjuna comes back you know, to fight against the Virata, the Duryodhana who had captured the cows of Virata in one of the battle, the first thing Arjuna does when he sees his guru and his grandfather, he offers a dandavat through his arrows. The arrows go and fall at their feet, and he releases another arrow which goes through their ears, asking for their blessings. Right? And this very good quality on the battlefield of Kurukshetra became a cause of almost losing his resources. Not only losing his resources and not contributing to the growth of the society. Hmm? And if you understand, therefore, Gita is so dynamic when you understand the history, when you understand the human psychology, when you understand the psychology of the Kauravas and the Pandavas. Why do you think Dhritarashtra asked that question in the very first chapter? He asked that question, what did my sons and the sons of Pandu do after being assembled on the battlefield of Kurukshetra? Of course, they will fight, but he was hoping, he was praying, he was anticipating. What was his anticipation? What was his prayers? Some or other, the good environment of the Kurukshetra, the holy place, Dharma Kshetra, will impact the Pandavas more positively. Let their sattva increase. Their sattva increases more and more, then the interest in Rajoguna will be not there. They will say, what is this? Why should we be like the Kauravas? Why the hell we should fight like them? If they are mean, stupid, small-minded, fighting like cats and dogs, why should we do that? It's not respectful to us. So let us go. हम निकल जाते हम we will leave this place. He was hoping that the Pandavas' good quality will prevail them and stop them from becoming ambitious to collect their own resources. And he had proved that. He had sent a letter before, before the peace message almost failing and was about to fail. He had sent a message. And you will understand how a cunning person, one who is always waiting to exploit, and exploitation becomes intensified if the opposite party is your relatives and they respect you. They trust you, they respect you, and you abuse them. How do you abuse? So the Dhritarashtra, what he did was, he sent a letter, and the content of the letter was a truthful reality. Whatever he said would come, it would happen exactly like that. He said, you know what, Pandavas, my son Duryodhana is a stubborn evil. It is impossible to transform him. He is hell bent. He is hell bent upon destroying himself. It sounds, wow, our uncle is so fair. He is able to give few bad words to his own son. How transparent he is, right? But it is all match fixing. Next point he says, my dear sons, you are not like Dhritarashtra. You are not like Duryodhana. You have got such a great sanskaras. You have always been cooperative. You always have been very submissive and willing to listen. Therefore, my suggestion is, better do not come to Hastinapur claiming your right for kingdom, because that will not do good to anybody. It will cause a big bloody war. Thousands of people will be killed. Why do you want to change from being what you are to become like my sons? Does it make sense? And he didn't stop there. He didn't just make a question mark. He gave an answer also. He said, therefore, I suggest you, my dear children, that you don't come here, don't wage this war. The history will not forgive you. And there are many people who are students of Dhritarashtra who say, oh, if Pandavas were not instigated by Krishna, things would be completely different. And these very people who talk about, being very, very liberal, talk about borderless state, they talk about borderless country, they talk about borderless, everything, but they stay in a gated community all the time. The so-called intellectuals. Right? So what Dhritarashtra said to Arjuna, he said, therefore I suggest, my dear Pandavas, you continue to live by begging, because that is your conditioning. You have been conditioned to live by begging. Last 12 years has happened. Before that, during the Lakshagraha, the burning of the palace, and before that, when they were born in the forest. So you are habituated. So why change that? And not only you continue to live by begging, but don't come to Hastinapur. Because if you come to Hastinapur, that will create a disruption amongst the citizens. They will not be happy to see you beg, and that will create a revolution. So for the peace of the society, for the peace of people, we recommend you all go to Dwarka and you live by begging, and you will be credited for avoiding one of the biggest war. What is wrong in this logic? Mathematically, it is 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. Mathematically, it is 3 plus 3 is equal to 6. If Pandavas had not come, the Kurus and the Pandavas' children would not be dead. The war would have been averted. Sometimes people talk about buying a blatant, visible violence. They say, no, we can't handle this, and allow the subtle, perpetual, abstract, continual violence on a mental, on an intellectual, and dying just like that frogs. When you take a frog and put it in the hot water, it burns, they jump off. But if you put it in the cold water and slowly, slowly, slowly heat up the stove, they don't realize till the inevitable happens. This is human psychology. Those who are cowardice, those who lack that confidence, they talk about so-called life of giving up everything. Doesn't work like that, right? Just like Arjuna was been brainwashed, abused by Dhritarashtra by sending this message. They read it, they were angry, but the seed of that principle sat in Arjuna's heart. And therefore he told Krishna, Krishna, my Gandiva is slipping from my hand. I can't stand on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Therefore, I prefer to live by begging rather than killing my own kinsman. Can you imagine? Here it is not Arjuna's greatness being exhibited. It is the strategy of Dhritarashtra being successful. He would be jumping in ecstasy. Wow, this is what I was expecting. This is what I was anticipating. The good Pandavas will go and live as a beggars. Good for them. And it is good for my son to perpetually rule. And what would happen? The consequences of perpetual rule by Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana? Few things he will throw here and there. Arey, enjoy karo. But he will create slaves out of a citizen. He will create suffering as a normal reality. Right? Getting abused, not back answering, will become the realities of life where they will enjoy. Perpetual violence they would create if Arjuna had taken that decision of avoiding the war. Right? So therefore, what is it? The principle of Sura Asura. The battle of good and bad is an eternal reality. And therefore, when Dhritarashtra, in his good senses, but weak heart, would make there is no chance for my sons to survive. I hear the Gandiva of Arjun. He is as powerful as Krishna. They have the power to finish the war within 1 or 2 or 3 days, max 3 days. So therefore, when good is joined with smart, it becomes very powerful. So what was Arjuna's limitation? It is not clarity. It is not fear of war. It was not fear of devotion, lack of devotion. It was not fear of lack of proficiency. It was all about his good quality, right? And therefore, compassion and anger at the end of the day have the same consequences. For your information, it destroys if it is not connected to dharma. Compassion without dharma allows you to exploit unreasonably. You'll be exploited yourself, and you allow others to exploit you, and you allow others to exploit your people. And that is what happened with Yudhishthira Maharaj before he learned the art of becoming smart. His good quality made him watch when his brothers, his brothers were disrobed. They were made to remove their upper cloth, and they were trying to do it on Draupadi also. But her destiny and her devotion to Krishna saved her, right? And they were willing to do that, exploit the Pandavas as much as possible, break their confidence so that they become forever the slaves of the Kauravas. But what did not happen? Krishna did not allow that to happen. He sent a sari, and he sent along with that sari smartness in the heart of Duryodhana. So therefore, if you study carefully in the Vedic philosophy, Lakshmi and Narayan are together. Today there was a yajna for the great soldiers who tragically passed away, right, in a crash. It's a disastrous, not because they were great soldiers alone. They were members of their family, the wife, they had children, they had brothers, they had parents, right? When they passed away, whenever the parents will recollect, oh my God, how this happened. But if you understand along with that, their life was disaster, their death was disastrous, but their life was glorious. Huh? So therefore, in whatever yajna people do, we had offering of kritanyata through mantras, through yajnas. They chant Sri Shukta and Purusha Shukta. If you understand Sri Shukta and Purusha Shukta, Purusha represents the universe and Sri represent the resources in the universe. You have Purusha Shukta and your Sri Shukta, right? And asking for her grace makes you resourceful. When you receive her grace, you become confident. Therefore, Lakshmi or Lakshya means to perceive, to observe, to know, to understand. Right? So therefore, Lakshan, Lakshmi comes from Lakshan. Lakshan is sign, its target, its aim, its symbol, its attribute, quality, auspiciousness. Right? And what does she represent? She represents resources. And where does she stay? Always with Lord Narayan. When they're together, the growth cycle is not only great on a financial level, those growth cycle is very good on an intellectual level. Huh? So therefore we see that in the Vedic concept, one of the most fascinating concept is that the source of all resources, or she's the concentration of all resources, Shakti, that is Radharani, Rukmini, Lakshmi, Sita Maya, right? What do they represent? They represent all the resources. And who are there with them? They are there with their consort, Lord Narayan. When Lord Narayan and Lakshmi are together, therefore, when people celebrate Lakshmi Puja, it is not only Lakshmi Puja alone. Along with Lakshmi, there will be a shaligram bought by the Brahmanas for people to worship. And when we worship together, the masculine and feminine energy, nowadays there was much research done. Nowadays, the schools are making the male member to be effeminate, right? There is that power is not there. Somebody said, Nietzsche said that war is an admirable remedy for the people. They are growing weak and comfortable and contemptible. Hmm? What does it do? It excites instincts that rot away in peace. Huh? Now it sounds very harsh. He may not be speaking the complete truth, but he's speaking the truth. Right? He's speaking the truth. When Bhishmadev asked, when Draupadi asked Bhishmadev, we discussed that in our clubhouse session. When Draupadi asked Bhishmadev, what is dharma? And what did Bhishmadev say? He had tears in his eyes. He said, my dear Draupadi, what can I say? He said, wherever there is power, you'll find dharma there. Because they define what is dharma. And today the power is concentrated with Duryodhan, Dushasan, Karna, and Shakuni. Therefore, whatever they say, unfortunately, Draupadi, that becomes dharma. It is so painful to hear the bitter truth of life. So therefore, what happens sometimes, we spend more time in discussing about the troubles caused by wealth. And some other consciously or unconsciously, we create a artificial integration between wealth and problems. And we consciously or unconsciously avoid the greater problem caused by poverty, a greater problem caused by lack of resources, a greater problem caused by lack of opportunity, right? So therefore, it is explained that if you give food to people, they start thinking. The socialist Russia, communism in many parts of the world, what they would do, they would create an artificial scarcity of food. When there is an artificial scarcity of food and suddenly after 1 or 2 days you get something, it is but natural that you become a dependent lot of a civilization towards your government. When you are simply working hard to meet with your basic necessities of life, how can you think anything other than food, other than something? The president said that one American had gone to Russia and he met with a girl, young child. He asked her, when is your father coming back? I need to talk to him. And the girl said, after 26 days, 14 hours, 35 minutes and 35 seconds. So, wow, how can you say so good with such a precision? She said, because my father is an astronaut. Then he asked her, when is your mother coming back? She had no answer. He said, why you're not saying? He said, there is a difference between mother and my father. Father is an astronaut, but my mother is waiting in a sabji line. She is buying potatoes. I don't know when she will come. Right? So therefore, when poverty is there, there is a structure, there is a group of people, and few individuals, they kind of brainwash them to do everything what they say. Therefore, group always requires consensus, and journey requires ability to discover. Right? When there is an ability for discovering, then what does it do? It gives you courage. And tomorrow, next week's topic is, basically, doing good to others is born out of understanding oneself properly. And therefore, as Lakshmi is married to Lord Narayan, we see dharma to prevail. Dharma should also be married to this beautiful character, personalities. No, Murti, they are Murti married to Dharma and they gave birth to Lord Nar and Narayan. Dharma married to Shubha, this is the third canto of the Bhagavatam. Dharma married to Shraddha, that gave rise to Shubha, right? Dharma married to Parashraya, that gave rise to Hriti. Dharma married to Muda, that gave Tushti. Married to Ahankar, that gave Pushti. Dharma married to Kriya, that gave Yoga. Dharma married to Unnati, that gave Tarpa, confidence. Dharma married to Buddhi, that gave Artha. Dharma married to Smriti, that gave Medha. Dharma married to Kshema, gave, Titiksha, right? So in this way, Dharma, when it is having a force of other personalities, other people, then it becomes very powerful. And because that power is connected to dharma, you'll have the control to how to deal with that power, not recklessly misuse it. So therefore, the purpose of Krishna telling Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna is to establish dharma, collect all the resources, and use that resources for the welfare of the society. This part we will discuss next week on the concept of the Swadharma and growth. Any questions or comment? Individual growth is connected to collective growth.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. It's just not good enough to be good. We need to be resourceful. We have a question by Sriramji. Sriramji, can you please ask the question?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Thank you, Guruji. Thank you for the class today. Guruji, two questions, because I was also reflecting on what we spoke yesterday, but I'll begin with what came through the session today. When you were talking about compassion without dharma, that leads to exploitation in a certain sense. So where the mind really went was, and hence maybe in a certain way it is then also connected to the whole thing around, and hence there is nothing good or nothing bad. Essentially what it then boils down to, and this is how I'm sort of joining the dots now, essentially what it then boils down to, dharma is basically what the situation requires you to do, right? In a certain sense, and hence does it in a certain way again tie it back to where you left us, which is the nishkama karma, right? In a certain sense, to sort of go back and say, hey, listen, so if this is what, so somewhere in a certain sense, this again comes back to doing what the present, being present in the present and what it needs you to do. Can one look at it like that? When you connect the whole thing around there's no good or bad, because the context needs you to do a certain something and hence there is no judgment. And if you need to stay in the context, it's all about the nishkama karma, which is basically doing what you need to do without the focus on the consequences of the fruit in the situation that you're in.
Yes, there is you're there. Along with that, there is called as consequential reality.
Yes.
Which is based upon consequences. And there is another principle which is also called as rule-based reality. So what Krishna does not say that there are no rules in life. There are fixed rules also, and there are rules which are flexible also.
Correct.
Just like if you are learning Indian classical music, there are certain rules, right? The preliminary student is made to study these rules. So when you study these rules, they don't change. But when you are playing your concert, when you are singing, so then what you do, you have the capability of understanding your emotions. You are having the capability to understand the emotions of your crowd.
Yes.
So then you create a context centric music which is
Correct.
not breaking the rule but actually fulfilling the rule. The rules are made in such a way they are there not to break but to create a great integration. As I said,
Correct.
in a general term, being a vegetarian is very good compared to non-vegetarian.
Mm.
So therefore, what happens? Then we create a conflict. The non-vegetarian will quote some scriptural statements. Oh, in Ramayana this is allowed. Oh, in Manu Samhita this is allowed.
Mm.
There are verses, there are shlokas which talk about eating meat. And the vegetarian people will pull out the shlokas from the scripture to prove, no, this is wrong. You see, these are the verses.
Mm.
But if you read carefully, Manu and other teachers also, they teach us to evolve from being whatever you are to something else.
Mm.
So they do not create a conflict between non-vegetarian and vegetarianism. If you read that chapter in the Manu Samhita, then you realize, wow, how we get a prejudice based upon what we do. If I'm a vegetarian, I will condemn a non-vegetarian. And if you're a non-vegetarian, you will pull out to prove, oh, these are the realities from the scripture, right?
Mm.
But if you have the power to experience the foundational laws and contextual laws, then you'll become like Narad Muni. Narad Muni told that hunter, he said, why kill them half? He didn't say don't kill. He said kill them fully.
Mm.
So he didn't stop the butcher, the hunter from killing animals. This hunter would take pleasure in killing the animals half, to see them flap their wings, to see them, tadapana bolte na,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? So what did Narad Muni said? He said, you know what? Don't kill them like that, kill them fully. So I said, what is the difference between killing half and killing full? He had no distinction. So Narad Muni said, by killing half, there is more pain, but killing instantly, they suffer less. So he taught him the distinction between, suffering more and suffering less. And when he realized, oh, I need to create less suffering, that was his elevation.
Mm.
Right? If somebody comes and says, oh my God, how can you do this? Don't eat onion, garlic also. What are you talking? It's a violence. That statement is violence to him because he will not relate to what you speak.
Mm.
So therefore, it is not simply context. Context is created because there is a foundational understanding.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it becomes recklessness in the name of, I just have to work on present. A present for Gita is not simply the present. The present has the background in the
Correct.
past and the consequences in the future. Therefore, it
Correct.
is very dynamic. But
Correct.
yes, when you add to this point, whatever you said is absolutely right.
And which was my follow-on question from yesterday, Guruji. When we talk about balancing between staying present in the present and thinking through the consequences of the actions that you take, how does one balance that? Because somewhere then so how do you really balance the whole play around thinking through your consequences and staying present in the present? What do we do?
Therefore, again, another interesting principle. If you understand the psychology of Krishna,
Hmm.
and our Prakriti also, they are not looking for perfection in our balancing act.
Hmm.
It is an accepted reality that you try your best. There is no such thing as getting out of 100 out of 100. That is not
Hmm.
possible other than you are appearing for CBSE, SSC, and ICSE examination.
Hmm.
No,
Hmm.
right? That's not like that. So what they're looking for your efforts, and you are not bogged down by this balance.
Correct.
Humans are meant to make mistake.
Hmm.
They will make mistake, but that does not stop them from growing, right?
Hmm.
And therefore Krishna, he explains to Arjuna so beautiful in the 18th chapter, He says, my dear Arjun, every endeavor what you do or every profession what you have, it has some limitation, just like there is a smoke in the fire. He said, I will not focus on the smoke, I will focus on the fire. It is your responsibility to make it as blazing fire as possible, but it is accepted reality, there will be some smoke. You understand? So therefore, it is not about becoming perfect. It is basically walking our journey towards perfection. And trying to avoid walking the journey towards imperfection. But to achieve perfection, it is not possible for human. It's not a machine. Human is a combination of systems and raw emotions, raw feelings, raw interactions with the world. Therefore, certainly. So therefore, the point, as I said, when you read Gita, there should not be equanimity. Equanimity is not the concept of stone where you burn the stone, no experience, put the stone in the best of the ice cream, no experience. The Lord is not speaking that kind of equanimity among the human being. The simple equanimity is, he says, whenever there is happiness and wherever there is disturbed, he is not disturbed. What does it mean? There is happiness, there is distress. So he tries to minimize the principle of pain, but you cannot say that I'm not feeling suffering. The suffering will be there, but you'll not play the tape for a long time again and again, again and again, again and again. Even if there is a plane, you play your game. No, that is how the principle is. And by learning again the whole process of yoga, the process of bhakti yoga, ashtanga yoga, it's a conscious efforts of seeking the higher grace. We seek
Got
higher grace not to become perfect, we seek higher grace to deal with our imperfection, be kind to ourselves but not shameless. That is the balance.
Got it. So, sorry, Guruji, you were saying something. I didn't mean to.
That is what this.
And how my mind, and thank you for clarifying this, and how my mind is then reading that. So you seek the higher grace to become a more conscious living entity.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have Harshi. Harshi, can you please unmute yourself and ask the question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, thank you for a nice class. And such a class that whatever question I think I will ask gets changed in next moment because so many new things comes up. So latest is like when Draupadi asked Bhishma that what is dharma, then you said dharma is with the powerful. But when Yaksha asked Yudhishthir what is dharma or where does dharma reside, he said dharma resides in the hearts of the munis or rishis. So how do we reconcile these things, these two statements?
Yes, dharma resides in the heart of the rishi. That is also correct. Again, see, whenever you read scripture, like in the Mahabharata, I'll tell you one of the greatest contradiction. But there is no contradiction if you understand the context here. After the battle was over, Dhritarashtra heard from Sanjay and Vidura, and then afterward Vyasa came. The question raised by Dhritarashtra was, which is more important, Daiva or Purushartha? And the same question was asked by Yudhishthira Maharaj to Bhishma, which is more important, Daiva or Purushartha? Vidura is a Mahajan and Bhishma is Mahajan. Bhishma told Yudhishthir, he said, my dear Yudhishthir, Purushartha is much more important than Daiva. And then Vidura told Dhritarashtra, Daiva is more powerful than Purushartha. And if you simply read the verses, you'll jump off. Array, what is this? There is a contradiction amongst the great souls. So therefore, the scripture, as I said, they are law-centric also, they are fact-centric also, and they are also impact-centric. Dhritarashtra needed to hear this as an answer. And Yudhishthir, who was putting so much of, so much of emphasis on Daiva, had to hear Purushartha, Purushartha. It is just like a small child, 10-year-old child says, I want to give up everything. Then you have to talk to them about dharma, artha, kama. And an 80-year-old man is saying, you know what, I want to start new business, get married. Then you have to talk to him dharma and moksha. Right? So what is the context? So why is he saying? What is he saying? In the political world and in the individual world. In the individual journey to moksha, what Yudhishthira said is the reality. In the collective growth for the society, the power is the reality. Dharma is there where the power is there. So there is Jiva and there is Jivan. Jiva is looking for mukti and Jivan is looking for legacy. Prakriti ko mukti nahi hai. Prakriti, the living entity who is staying in the Prakriti can experience liberation. So therefore, individual journey requires inner dharma and the collective society requires external power. So there is no contradiction between the two. They're very clear.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hashi, you want to say something? Okay, we have a question by Pradeep ji.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. It was a pure nectar listening to you. Again, I enjoyed your lecture. Thank you so much. Prabhuji, my question is not directly related to the today's topic. It's a general question, if you permit me.
Yeah.
My question is, Prabhu, we give a personal form or name to mountains and this rivers, etc. And of course, I have read only Bhagavad Gita. Apart from that, I have not read anything. So why it is like that?
Yeah, that is answered in the Gita itself because it's a beauty of, if you study again, like I want to do the seminar on psychology of Sanatana Dharma. What is it is based upon what? Because in Sanatana Dharma, you see, like if you go back to your grandparents, if you've grown up in a smaller town, in Bombay also, the bhajiwala would become bhajiwala mama, police mama, dudwala bhaiya, right? So it was a cultural, conscious or unconscious reality to create a relationship between the client and the person who is providing you the resources, right? So similarly, our ancestors, our rishis, they did not see mountains as mountains, rivers as river, as water. They saw water as tirtha. When you write to your father or grandfather, not the email has killed the spirit behind the communication, the culture behind the communication. It has made it flat. Hi dad. Right? But when you take a pen and write with your own hand written this thing, they would write Tirtha Swarup Pitashri ko. Tirtha Swarup. So what happened? So that means you have a conception of Tirtha connected to river. Right? When you see a sun, you see, sun, Surya Narayan. In the morning class, we were discussing, when somebody dies, it doesn't matter what is their background. He could be a rishi and he could be a ordinary human being who is corrupt. But when the antim sanskar is done to both of them, the sanskaras, the kriya, the mantra that I'm saying, you don't cut mantras for a great personality as against the, bad man. You don't say, no, he doesn't deserve. Because he also gets all the same mantras. He also gets Agni Samskar only. The Agni which is invoked for a rishi and Agni which is invoked for an ordinary person, they are same. Just see the beauty. And therefore, it is explained when somebody leaves their body, it is best people should say this. Again, we don't, because we are emotionally, emotionally get disturbed, and that time you can't tell people. Now we can say, whenever somebody leaves their body, it is best that bodies, cremated within 6 to 12 hours, because that is the last offering. You are offering it to fire, and for us, the fire is Agni Narayan.
Anji.
You do not offer the rotten body, but you offer the fresh body to the fire. So that's your last consumption, last offering. So therefore, we conceived offering in everything. We conceived yajna in everything. We conceived relationship in everything. And therefore, we conceived name so that you can feel, you feel that relationship. Wow, when you come to Ganga, we could have said, oh, flowing water, बहते हुए पानी है. Feeling nahi aayega. But when you conceive Ganga, then the entire history comes along with that. So there is a great emotional connectivity, and because we are driven by heart, and therefore along with that heart, the buddhi and the kriya is interconnected, then that growth becomes extremely profound and great.
अंडरस्टूड प्रभु जी. जो संबंध है एक्चुअली, इस संबंध आपका स्थापित होता है, जो मैं समझा आपकी बात में. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. There's a question by Vinay Ji. He asks, how do we understand being resourceful? Is it that we need to earn a lot of money by practicing what is our Swadharma, or is there something else?
Again, the wealth, which is again, we have wrote in that Money and Mahabharat book, 8 kinds of Lakshmi, which talks about, Santana Lakshmi, Vidya Lakshmi, Vijaya Lakshmi, Dhana Lakshmi, Dhanya Lakshmi. So it is not simply money. Therefore, in our Sanskrit language, money is not, artha is not synonymous to money. Artha means many more things along with okay. When we call it is dhan, what does dhan? No, dhan is not only money, it's not note. So dhana is one aspect of artha. Artha means anything which is meaningful. A prosperity of relationship is required, prosperity of health is required, prosperity of grain is required, prosperity of knowledge is required, prosperity of wealth is required. So if person can get, it is not possible to get all of those 8 simultaneously in the same quantity, right? Because again, we are human being. That Ashtalakshmi is only possessed by Lord Narayan, and we get some chidka, some little glimpse, and that itself is also great to drown us. Of the 8 also, you have something tangible along with others being with you, then you are resourceful. Otherwise, simply money, how can that be making it resourceful? So resourceful means all these things, all 8 one, and try to see that there is an integration of your profession, your passion, your sanskaras, your varna. For an intellectual, he needs money. A professor, he needs money, but he needs more discovery and teaching. For a businessman, he may not be like a teacher. He has a different kinds of resources. We can't compare between the two. Unfortunately, what happened? That everybody is looking from money perspective, even the teachers. Therefore, education has become a business, right? The valor, the army officers, right? they could make more money as a security people serving for some big multinational company. Yes, some join after they retire, but there are people they continue to work in that field. So therefore, we cannot judge based upon one principle to other principle. Therefore, integration again of prosperity is what is expected of.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, there is, our culture is, talks about being respectful. And sometimes when we know that people who are senior to us in authority or in relationship, and we feel that there is something which needs to be corrected in them, but our goodness, interrupts us or stops us from doing so. So, how do we manage such situations?
And therefore, again, when you go to study in a teacher's place, Gurukul, one of the first instruction the teacher teaches, I am teaching you knowledge. We're going to learn together, and you have the responsibility and right to ask tough questions. Right? Therefore, Arjuna was asked by Dronacharya as a student, if there is an opportunity, if there is a chance, you have to fight me, Arjun. Do you promise? That is the spirit of the teacher also. So therefore, when a teacher empowers the student, teaching along with that humility, you can't teach humility and keep them ignorant. You give the foundation of humility, like we were discussing yesterday, confidence and faith, they have to go together. Faith is born out because we realize there is something beyond us. And confidence is something within us. Both are required. One requires an observational reality and one is beyond observation. Therefore, the educationalist says, Vijayi Vinayi Bhava. I need to experience victory and I also need to be humble. So therefore, it is said that culturally submissive, but intellectually independent. That is the Sanatan Dharma's principle. I have the right, I have the responsibility to ask question. The Vedanta Sutra, they boldly declare, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Ask question, and it is our responsibility to give you answer in such a way you experience that answer to yourself. They have the courage. Krishna said, okay, I've spoken this to you now. Now you choose what you want to do. Lord did not force Arjuna that you have to do like this only. Right? So therefore, what happened? The intellectual, the buddhi, not the modern buddhijeevi, which is born out of social science. The Nyaya principle, which is taught in the Vedic philosophy, is not bereft of namrata. So when that is combined together, and there was a facility for proper discussion, courageous discussion, right? But some other, what happened, we focused more on, superiority based upon age, superiority based upon relationship, superiority based upon gender, and slowly, that is how knowledge system starts crumbling down. The superficiality becomes supremely powerful and the substantial reality is sidetracked. And therefore, what does Krishna say? Whenever there is decline, when this knowledge, apparently disappeared, I spoke this knowledge to sun god. Right? So therefore, one should not be recklessly questioning, challenging, and one should not be submissive as if he's a slave. One has to overcome the slavery mentality and one has to overcome the mentality of recklessness and again become balanced in respectfully. Prahlad is the best example. Dhruva is the best example. Pandavas are the best example.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, if you look at the recent history, we were ruled by the Mughals for 700 years.
They didn't rule us 700 years everywhere. That's a wrong understanding. They ruled some pockets.
Okay, so they ruled us for some years, and the Britishers also ruled us for some years. So, and was it our goodness that made this happen?
There are a few things. One is the goodness also, Atithi Satkar, right? We believe in Atithi Satkar too much, or then trying to forgive, going against the principle of Mahabharata, right? When you meet your enemy who's an invader, you don't forgive him. In fact, Chanakya and Mahabharata says, Shatru Shesha Asheshataha. That Shatru ko Asheshata, that quotient also should not be left over. Therefore, Chanakya, after finishing Navanandas, the Navananda's grandfather was performing tapasya. He told him, finish him off also. Sounds very cruel, but he said, because he's the ex-king, he might take somebody as a adopted son, and he will try to create those kind of emotion, finish him off also, right? And what did Krishna do with Jarasandha? He didn't forgive him. He said, let him go and collect. I will stay here and I'll finish him off. So we stopped following Krishna and Ram, and we focus more on, unfortunately, following the Ahimsa philosophy, which became extreme reality. A Kshatriya, when becomes non-violent, a Kshatriya starts speaking about non-violence. He should not speak about violence too, but he should not start preaching about non-violence. Oh, there should not be khun kharaba, there should not be battle, because people will attack you, because that is how the world functions, Sura and Asura. So that is one reason. And second, the superior power in regards to weapons, in regards to strategy, in regards to, tantra, divide and rule, because it's easier, because Indians are fiercely independent. They have their so many calendars, and for the right reason also. When we talk about diversity, the Western world talks about diversity only in regards to religion, right? It doesn't talk about diversity in language, right? Some or other, some languages become globalized, but here, you have so many languages. There is a diversity in language, there is diversity of food, there is diversity of color, our body skin, there is a diversity of cloth, including sari. A sari mein bhi kitne sare diversity hai. Gujarati is alag, Rajasthani is different, and the South Indians are different. Within South India also different communities very differently. There are millions of varieties, right? So what are you globalizing then? So they use the power of weapons which they had developed and created the division within the Indian subcontinent. The Rashtra concept of India is not based upon political power. Politically, it is never possible to rule from one place the entire continent. Even during Yudhishthira Maharaj time did not happen like that. Right? There is a inspiration for a local governance. Therefore, the states were divided into many parts, but there was a cultural unity in regards to philosophy, in regards to Shraddha, in regards to the worship of the Devatas, worship of, basically worshipping Surya, worshipping Ganapati, worshipping Shiva, worshipping Vishnu, worshipping Devi. That was everywhere, all over. Right? So therefore, that unity, the cultural unity, made Sripad Shankaracharya from a small town in Kerala. Even now, there are hundreds and thousands of Keralites have never come out of their state forget state, their own town also. What to speak of going to Kashmir and establishing a matter. Shankaracharya went from Kerala to Kashmir, went from Kerala to Badrinath, right? From in Rameshwar, you also see so many Brahmanas and others coming other parts. There was so much of movement. How much Jesus traveled compared to Shankaracharya, Madhvacharya, Ramanuja, and Vishnu Swami, Lord Chaitanya also. Just study how much Jesus traveled compared to these people. And where did they travel? All over. So the cultural unity is what is expected of, and the political power, which is based upon certain governance, which is centralized, and many things which is decentralized, not for division. So all this creative, all this thing became an advantages, which was an advantages for us unless the invaders came. So before we could regroup, oh, the outsiders have come, they are not part of this, the cultural diversity. They have come here to create a globalization. And what does the globalization do in regards to making everything same? Even if India becomes superpower, which should not become, it should not be based upon we will enforce everybody to learn Sanskrit, we will enforce everybody to learn Tamil. No, even within the Bharata's continent, not everybody knew Sanskrit. Not everybody knew Devanagari. Not everybody knew Tamil. In fact, they knew many languages, 10, 12 languages, right? Along with their mother tongue also. So therefore, there are many dynamics, in regards to why this happened, what this happened. That's a different subject altogether. So
Thank
let's
you.
Stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Yes, diversity. At the same time, we have to see unity too. We started today Gita summarized. You can join in tomorrow as well as day after at 7:15 in the morning. Very, very profound, I would say. Tuesday, we will be meeting again on Gita Jayanti to discuss more about the dilemmas of good people. And again, next Saturday for the concluding last two laws, that's next Saturday and Sunday. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna and good night.